Good morning, YouTube. It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back to the channel, you guys. It is your girl, Miss Honey, here with another devotional. It's June 21st, the day after Father's Day in the year 2021. And today we're going to be talking about honoring your parents. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Honor your parents comes out of Deuteronomy 5 and 16. The morning version of Deuteronomy is the New King James Version. The evening version of Deuteronomy is the New Living Translation, NLT version. Without further ado, let's get into it. Deuteronomy 5, verse 16 reads, "Honor your father and mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, that your days may be long, and that you may be well, and that it may be well with you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you." The text says, have you ever felt like your parents didn't really know what they were doing when they were raising you? Well, of course they didn't. It's something they had to learn every step of the way. Not all of us had a great childhood, and many of us can hold on to resentment about the way we were raised. However, God gave the commandment to his people to honor their fathers and mothers, whether they deserved it or not. How can you honor your father or mother today? The prayer for the morning is, God, help me to honor my parents in the same way, whether it's a phone call, an email, or simply just kind thoughts about them if they are no longer around. Thank you for parents of all kinds. Deuteronomy 5 and 16, New Living Translation, for the evening reads, honor your father and mother as the Lord your God commanded you. Then you will live a long, full life in the land of the Lord your God is giving you. The text says, whether your parents are around or not, you can be thankful for the good things they have given you. And you can also be gracious about their faults. Remember that God wants to bring restoration to relationships. Allow him to provide you with a gracious and loving heart toward your parents this week. The prayer for the evening is, Lord, show me ways in which I can honor my parents or even other parents this week. Let me be obedient to you as the best parent of all. And then our question for ourselves today is, how can you honor your parents this week? Well, listen, again, June 21st, the day after Father's Day. Father's Day is always the 21st or a few days prior to that, whatever the Sunday is prior. It's usually not beyond the 21st, from what I can remember. And so it's just funny that here on the 21st, of course, we always do Father's Day on Sundays. So we celebrated Father's Day here yesterday in America on yesterday. And it was some beautiful, beautiful memes out there, beautiful posts people posted. I personally didn't post my father. Um, I'm just, you guys know, I'm just not really into holidays like that. Everybody was like happy June 19th this weekend. Um, and I don't know, I mean, I'm a person that lives in a very present place. So I'm very celebratory of the people that I love, mother, father, siblings, on a daily basis. And so it's weird for me. Holidays are weird for me because I'm with my parents all the time. I'm cooking for them all the time. I'm loving on them and smothering them and making them feel like I gave birth to them all the time. She's a smotherer all the time. Um so holidays for me, it was just another Sunday, and I'm usually at my parents' house on Sunday. I usually cook for them on Sundays. I usually take food there. I usually, you know, see what I can do for them. I need to cut my dad's nails, things like that. Today we're going to see a senior center because my dad wants to go out during the day, during the week, a couple of times a week. And he and my mom have some time to themselves. And we're going to look at a senior center today. So that's my life, but I do recognize that some people either don't have their parent, and whether it be a mother or father, right? And I do recognize that some people don't have the most pleasant memories of a parent that is no longer here, or a parent they never got to really know. And so therefore it's hard to wrap your brain around honoring your mother or your father if, one, they're not here, and two, you don't have the most pleasant memories of them. And although I think it could be easy for some people to find a pleasant memory about a parent who has transitioned, there are some people who were tortured every day of their life that their parent was alive by that parent. Okay? There are people who saw that parent do horrific things to the other parent. And so I think when we say honor, we should be clear that it means exactly what it says, but at the same time, that is relative, right? Because a lot of times you can honor a person by just not encountering them and therefore not disrespecting them, right? You can honor the memory of a parent by just being a better parent yourself, right? Even if your daddy or your mama wasn't ish, right? You can honor the fact that they brought you into this world. That fact alone, you can honor it by being a great parent yourself, or being a great human being yourself, or trying your very best to be a good human being yourself, or a good parent yourself. All right. So I wanted to say that because the dynamics of what is today in terms of a parent is so multifaceted, more multifaceted than it was in back when Deuteronomy was being formed. And so sometimes when we read things in the Bible, it can seem so far off from 2021 in terms of relevancy and application. But listen, you don't have to be in love, 100% in love with your parents like I am in order to honor them. All right? You can honor them by, let's say, your parents left you property or uh, some type of belonging, a Bible, a ring, or a necklace, or a painting, or something of this nature, a book. You can honor them by cherishing that, right? You can honor them by refusing to allow, if it was negative, those things to affect your life going forward. There are a lot of ways, I think, to honor, and a lot of those ways just require you not involving yourself. There are people whose parents are alive, but they aren't present, or when they are present, they aren't, they aren't well. They're inebriated, or they're strung out, or they're thieves, or they have severe mental health issues where it's just not healthy to be around them. Okay? I think you honor them by not allowing them to put you in a position where you have to be disrespectful, where you got to talk to them any old kind of way. See, when we bring people into our hearts and into our lives, and we know that they are in no condition to operate amongst, normal, quote, I'm using my quote fingers, normal, viable citizens, giving them chance after chance after chance to hurt us, then not only are we dishonoring ourselves, but we're putting ourselves in a position where we're dishonoring them. And so a lot of times the best thing you can do is stay in your own place and let them stay where they are doing what they're doing, especially if they insist on doing it. You can love a mentally ill parent and not deal with them, and not let them drag you down and your family down. That is a way of honoring the parent-child relationship, right? So I think you can honor your mother and your father by following your goals, by becoming a productive citizen yourself, by continuing to stretch yourself to be the very, very best in God's kingdom. I think that's a way that we can honor our parents, right? Because this life is not promised to us, and we were amongst those that made it, that were born, that were created. Some are born and they don't survive. Some are born and they're born into a place of hardship and torture and wounding. It is hard to think about honoring those people that did the wounding as parents, that did the torture, that caused fatal harm. It's hard to imagine honoring them. It's difficult. And in my own mind, I don't know how we reconcile that. How do we reconcile harming a child? How do we reconcile starving a child, wounding a child to a place where they transition from this world into the next? How does one find honor for a parent like that? I don't know. But God. I'm not sure how what the exact steps for that look like, but God, right? But God. Okay, we have to reconcile it with ourselves. Again, one of the best things we can do sometimes is just not engage, right? It's just not to entertain. That is one of the most respectful things you can do sometimes, because you don't allow whatever spirit is in them to affect you. But I will wholeheartedly admit to you that there are places within this idea, this thought of honoring your parents, this mandate to honor your parents, that I will wholeheartedly admit I do not know how I personally could reconcile it with myself. A parent that would harm a child or their children, and we're not talking about a quick blow. We're talking about that ends it all. We're talking about years and years and years of torture, mistreatment, abuse, physical, sexual, verbal, the whole nine. I don't know how one reconciles that and turns it into honoring their parent, or reconciles what honoring that parent looks like. I don't know how one finds it in them to thank a parent for anything, that type of parent for anything. I will admit that 110%, but God is not through with me yet. He is not through with me yet. Okay? All I would say is, if you have a parent and you love them, they have treated you well, not just perfect, okay, because no human is perfect, but you had good upbringing. Maybe your mama's a little snippy like my mama is, and um you know, a little strong in the hand like my mom was, or just loving and kind like my father is. But my father had many flaws, a lot of which I'm finding out now that I've gotten older. Many fall shortcomings. It's easy to find that love for them, but you have to stay present with it, right? You have to see about your mama and your daddy. You have to go and see them. You have to sit through the stories. You have to deal with the things that they do that bother you. You have to make those sacrifices, right? Because once they are no longer here, then that is all that there is. Everything after that is a memory. Everything after that, you're reconciling with yourself, because they are no longer here to reconcile with, right? And if you have a parent that is no longer here, and they weren't the most optimum parent for whatever reason, I always try to say, find a good memory, find some good memories, and try to reside there, okay? And not allow yourself to unpack all of the bad things. It is difficult, I am sure, but just try. Just try. If they've left you something lovely, if they are the reason that you went to school or you got your doctorate, whether it was a good reason or a bad reason, they pushed you out there, they pushed you too hard, or they neglected you, and you made up in your mind that you were going to go and become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or an entrepreneur. Honor them for that, right? And then if you have a parent or parents who were not great, who, living or dead, were horrible, horrible people, right? I pray that God helps you reconcile those feelings, even if it's to go back into your parents' past. I know I've been wanting to for quite some time to do, what do you call that? Those DNA tests where they go and they look through your whole lineage. They also pull up old census reports and all of this stuff and just give you some idea of your parents. If you've always lived in a state, your genealogical footprints in that state, or wherever your family has traveled, if they did the census, that information is there, cousins, that type of thing. I encourage you to go and look into something like that, because you can learn a lot about why a parent was maybe cruel to you or hurtful to you just by seeing where they came from. And that is a way that I think a person can reconcile. I'm a person that always says I love you when I get off the phone with someone that I love, a friend, a family member, definitely my families. I always say, okay, I love you, and I'll talk to you later, right? I didn't grow up like that. My mom was adopted, and she was given up for adoption as an infant because her mom was shot and killed by her oldest sister's husband. They were robbing her. They wanted money and she wouldn't give it to them, and they shot her dead in the doorway. And at the time, my mom was an infant. And so she was given up for adoption. And they didn't all have the same father, her and her other sisters. And so I didn't grow up with the mom that was always like, I love you, I love you, I love you, honey, sweetie, baby, honey. I didn't grow up like that. Okay, I was always loved. I was always well taken care of by both of my parents. All of us were. All of us children were. But it was something I missed. I missed that honey, baby, sweetie, pudding, lollipop, Everything was regimented. Hey, get over here. Put this down. Sit that there. Be quiet. Be silent. We were raised very strictly. We knew we were loved because our parents were responsible for us, even in our upbringing, even in our religion. But it wasn't warm and fuzzy. I'm a warm and fuzzy person now. Okay? I do that because, one, I'm grateful. Two, I love each and every one of them. If I say I love you, I love you. Okay? And three, I want now to always be love and light to them. To always show them love and light. For whatever reason, for whatever brokenness that they had going on, they weren't verbally affectionate. And so now I am overly affectionate verbally, and it gets on their nerves sometimes. My pleasure. But everybody says, I love you too. My dad says, I love you too, sweetheart, when I leave. When I get off the phone with my mom says, okay, I love you too. Still no honey, still no baby, still no sweetie. My mom hauled off and called me sweetheart. Boy, I would pass out. I mean, it would be a very noticeable thing. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think all of my siblings, we would all do a head turn. Like, what? But for sure, she says, I love you too. I love you too. I leave the house. I say, Mama, you want some sugar? Well, I guess I'll take a little sugar. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a little sugar then, and I give her a little forehead kiss. right? She didn't grow up with that type of love, and I get it now. She didn't grow up with that, and if she did get it, she couldn't receive it because of how everything transpired. And then when she had her own children, things were just, it was about raising them correctly. It was about keeping them safe. It was about keeping control over your children so that they stayed safe, so that they didn't get harmed. Right? My mama did not play. And she and I had tough time coming up just right in the middle there. In my uh 11, 12, 13, 16. Yeah. It was tough. It was tough. Right? She and I bumped heads hard. One, because we're a lot alike, and two, because I was always a loving and affectionate person, I think, and to get that hard brick wall all the time, I think in some instances it turned me also into a hard brick wall. I said all that to say that sometimes when you go back and you research who your parents were, how they were reared and raised, if you could talk with someone, if you could just look through your family line and see where they were brought up, and what the socioeconomic system was where they were brought up, you can learn a lot about your parents and why and who they were as children growing up. And then that'll in turn will speak a lot about how they were as parents when you were growing up and why they were that way. And sometimes in reconciling that, we can let go of the wounding and the hurt, okay? And not necessarily move to this place where we are honoring them, in the same traditional way that we think of honor. But maybe we can honor them by empathizing with their wounding and their hurt, and release them. Release them. Come on now. Come on. Release them. Release them. Amen. Amen. So that's my prayer for you today, that you will find a way. That is just a prayer for today. It is not an assignment for you today. It is not something for you to mark off your calendar to do today. It's fine if you're able to get it done. But if you're able to just start to come to grips with who your parents were, who your parents are, why, you can then begin to show them honor. And then ultimately honor the Father, God our Father. By releasing them, releasing the pain, releasing the anger, releasing the hate, and releasing the hurt. You can reconcile it and release it. That's my prayer for you today. Just think about it. Just start thinking about it. Just start pondering it. Just start thinking about where they grew up, how they grew up. If you weren't fortunate enough to have the stories, you guys know my dad has dementia, so I know all the stories front and back because he repeats himself a lot. Every story is the first time he's told it. So I know a lot about Ganga, his grandma, my great grandma, and Mudea, my grandmama, his mama. I know a lot about him. A lot about him. On loop. Amen. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry I kept you so long, but I wanted us to talk about this because, wow, this isn't as straightforward as one would think, right? And me having two great parents, I can admit that. Right? I can admit that. I wanted us to talk about it. I wanted us to unpack it. I want us to heal. I want us to be on the path to healing. Okay? I want us to be honest. Okay? With ourselves with the situation. I love you all with the love of the Lord. I'm so grateful there's nothing that you can do about that. I enjoy it. It's a blessing to me to have you. And until next time, honeybees, mwah, I'll holla.